Before the first word of any saga was spoken, before the first fire crackled, or the first wave touched a shore, there was a world shaped by forces so ancient that even the gods themselves would one day tremble before their memory. Hidden behind the veil of time stands a vast, cosmic structure that binds heaven, earth, and realms far beyond the reach of mortal sight. It is a world tree whose branches stretch toward the highest sky and whose roots sink into depths no traveler has ever returned from. It is the spine of creation, the pulse of all existence, the living boundary that holds chaos at bay. Its name is Yggdrasil, and from its immense presence rise 9 distinct worlds, each one breathing with its own history, its own inhabitants, and its own destiny. For centuries, the stories of these worlds have echoed through the cold winds of the north, carried from firelit halls to lonely mountain passes, whispered by poets, sung by warriors, and contemplated by kings. Yet behind the famous tales of Odin, Thor, and Loki lies a deeper foundation. Beneath the myths stands a carefully woven cosmology, one that explains not only how the worlds began, but also why they collide, why they clash, and why they endure. Understanding Yggdrasil is to stand at the heart of Norse imagination, to look through the same lens that ancient storytellers once used to make sense of life, death, and the mysteries that stretch beyond both. Tonight, you're invited to step into that vision, not as a warrior holding a shield, not as a god commanding storms, but simply as a traveler who listens carefully to the truths carried by the roots and branches of the world tree. The journey ahead winds through frozen wastes, burning horizons, halls of shining gods, shadowed lands of the dead, and quiet forests where ancient spirits dwell. Every world holds a piece of the larger design, and every story leads closer to understanding the nature of Yggdrasil itself. Settle in, breathe slowly, and let the echoes of an age long past open before you. The path from the first spark of creation to the final turning of fate begins now. In the beginning, there was neither dawn nor dusk, neither land nor sky, neither memory nor expectation. What existed was a vast and silent void known as Ginnungagap. It stretched endlessly in every direction, so empty that even the idea of emptiness could not fully describe it. There was no warmth and no cold, no sound and no motion. Yet this nothingness was not lifeless. It was the waiting breath before creation, a stillness so absolute that the slightest disturbance would change it forever. To the far north of this abyss lay Niflheim, a realm of ancient frost, whose glaciers had never felt the touch of light. Its winds carried the sting of eternal winter. From its deepest chasm rose a fountain called Hvergelmir, whose icy vapors drifted out into Ginnungagap. To the far south burned Muspelheim, a land of searing heat and blinding flame. Sparks leapt constantly from its fiery plains, and at its center stood the fire giant Surtur, a being older than any tale of gods or men. His sword glowed brighter than the sun would one day shine, and its heat shaped the very air around him. Between these two extremes, the empty void churned slowly. Where the frost of Niflheim met the embers of Muspelheim, the ice began to melt, and the sparks began to cool. From countless ages of contact, droplets formed and gathered, and from these droplets emerged the first living being. His name was Ymir, the ancestor of the giants. He rose from the melting ice with a form massive enough to shake the silence of Ginnungagap. With each step he took, his presence echoed like thunder in a space that had never known sound. As Ymir slept within the void, more ice melted. From the frozen blocks emerged a great cow named Audhumla, whose warm breath softened the surrounding frost. Ymir drank the milk that streamed from her, gaining strength and size with each passing moment. Audhumla herself fed on the salty ice that lined the void. As she licked away layer after layer, a shape began to emerge. First came hair, then a head, then the full form of a god. His name was Buri, the first of the Aesir. From Buri descended Bor, who would father 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve. With the birth of these 3, the silent void gained new purpose. Odin and his brothers grew quickly in wisdom and strength, and they saw that Ymir, the giant who dominated all space around them, threatened the possibility of creation. The brothers confronted him, and a great battle followed. Ymir fell beneath their combined power, and from his colossal form, a new world began to appear. His blood flowed outward and shaped the seas. His flesh became the land. His bones formed mountains, and his teeth became cliffs. His skull was lifted high to form the sky, held in place by 4 dwarves named North, South, East, and West. His brain scattered into the sky and became clouds. But this new world was incomplete. It needed structure, order, and a center from which all things could grow. From the deepest roots of creation, a great ash tree began to rise. Its trunk reached into the heavens, its branches spread across the sky, and its roots pierced into the farthest realms below. This was Yggdrasil, the world tree, the living axis that would hold all existence together. Its bark shimmered with an ancient strength, and its leaves whispered with the memory of every moment that had ever passed. The tree connected what lay above with what lay below, forming pathways through which life could move and fate could unfold. Yggdrasil did not simply stand in the world, it defined the world. At its highest branches, the realms of the gods would take shape. At its middle grew the lands where humans and other beings would one day walk. Deep beneath its roots slept forces older than the first word of any saga. 3 great roots anchored the tree. One reached into Asgard, where the gods would rule. Another extended into Jotunheim, the land of giants. The third plunged into the depths of Niflheim, where the cold waters of Hvergelmir flowed in endless cycles. From the moment Yggdrasil rose, creation had a spine. The 9 worlds began to take form around it, each shaped by the balance between ice and fire, order and chaos, life and death. Rivers flowed where none had existed before. Winds swept across new horizons. Stars formed in arcs across the sky, lighting the dome made from Ymir's skull. Yggdrasil stood at the center of it all, alive with a quiet strength that bound the realms together. The gods looked upon their work and saw that the world needed movement. It needed time. It needed a rhythm by which all things could rise and fall. They placed the sun and moon in the sky and set them on their eternal paths. They shaped the first days and nights. They crafted the turning of seasons, the waxing and waning of light, the cycles that would bring life to the lands below. In this early age, the world had shape, but not yet story. It had structure, but not yet meaning. That meaning would come from the lives that would soon emerge beneath the branches of the world tree. Yggdrasil withstood the winds of the newborn cosmos, its leaves capturing the breath of worlds, its roots drinking from the ancient waters of time. Everything that would ever be, from the smallest creature to the mightiest god, would exist under its vast canopy. This was the dawn before the tales of Asgard, before the forging of legendary weapons, before the rise of heroes, and the shadow of doom that would one day fall across all realms. Yet even in this earliest age, the future was already contained within the tree. Yggdrasil was not only the center of the world, it was the keeper of destiny. And with its emergence, the 9 worlds began preparing for the stories that would define their existence. Yggdrasil rose at the heart of creation, with a presence so immense that its branches shaped the skies around them, and its roots carved pathways through the unseen layers of the cosmos. As the first ages unfolded, the gods began to understand that this tree was not simply a living being. It was the framework upon which existence depended. Its trunk served as a central pillar that reached through realms of light, shadow, and ancient frost. Its roots pushed deeply into the origins of the world, seeking the waters that nourished all life. Its branches stretched across domains that would one day echo with hymns, battles, and stories. Yggdrasil was the unifying thread that held the 9 worlds in a single, interconnected design. To describe the structure of these realms, the gods spoke of 3 great levels. The highest level held the worlds of the divine, glowing with the clarity of creation and rising close to the uppermost branches of the tree. The middle level was the realm of beings who walked, built, struggled, and hoped. The lowest level was a foundation of shadowed lands where ancient powers lingered, and where the roots of Yggdrasil drank from the earliest waters of existence. Though these levels were separate, they remained inseparable from one another, each sustained by the stability of the tree. The upper level began near the highest limbs of Yggdrasil. Light filtered through the canopy with a purity untouched by the harshness of wind or storm. This was the region where Asgard would flourish, the home of the Aesir, whose presence shaped the laws and order of the cosmos. Here, the branches gave support to radiant halls and wide gathering places, where gods would discuss the fates of all beings. The air carried a calm strength, and from these heights the gods watched the realms below with a mixture of guardianship and curiosity. The upper level held great power, but it also carried the weight of responsibility, for the balance of creation depended on the actions of those who lived there. The middle level spread outward along the trunk of Yggdrasil. This was the domain where movement and change were most visible. Here, the world of humans would rise, shaped by seas, forests, mountains, and the rhythms of time. This level allowed life to grow in countless forms, and its cycles reflected the interplay between light and darkness. Rivers flowed through the lands, winds carried seeds to distant shores, and creatures of every kind emerged to fill the spaces between the worlds. The presence of Yggdrasil could be felt in the whisper of leaves, in the steady rotation of seasons, and in the quiet pulse of life that moved through every living being. The middle level was a bridge between gods and deeper powers, a place where destiny unfolded through the choices of mortals and the interventions of divine forces. The lowest level held some of the oldest mysteries of creation. Its roots extended downward into regions shaped by cold, darkness, and forgotten memories. In this level stood Niflheim, where the waters of Hvergelmir swirled endlessly, carrying within them the echoes of the earliest moments of existence. Creatures unseen by most beings crawled in the shadow of the roots. The air hung heavy with the weight of ages, and even the gods approached these depths with caution. Yet this level was essential. Without the nourishment drawn from these ancient waters, the upper worlds would wither. Without the foundation provided by these roots, no realm could stand. Yggdrasil connected the three levels flawlessly. Nothing existed that was not touched by the tree in some way. The passage of time flowed within its trunk. The breath of wind rustled its leaves. The fates of all beings, from the smallest living creature to the mightiest ruler of the divine halls, were interwoven with its fibers. Even as the worlds grew in complexity, Yggdrasil remained the silent observer of their transformations. Atop the tree perched a great eagle whose wings stirred the air and whose sharp eyes saw far into the reaches of the 9 worlds. High in the sky, the creature watched over the realms with an ancient awareness. Between the eagle's eyes sat a hawk, vigilant and swift, surveying the lands below with keen vision. These creatures formed part of the living ecosystem that surrounded the world tree. They did not rule the realms, yet their presence added to the mystery and grandeur of the cosmic structure. Along the trunk of Yggdrasil lived a squirrel known as Ratatoskr. With tireless energy, it ran between the highest branches and the deepest roots, carrying messages, provocations, and whispered observations. Its constant movement reflected the flow of information and tensions between different realms. The gods understood that Ratatoskr's journeys symbolized the movement of knowledge and emotion that connected all parts of the tree. Deep beneath the roots lay one of the most formidable beings in creation, a dragon named Nidhogg. It fed upon the roots of the tree, gnawing ceaselessly in the darkness of the lower realms. The presence of Nidhogg was a reminder that all things, even the world tree, faced forces that threatened decay and destruction. Yet Yggdrasil endured, strengthened by waters drawn from sacred wells and by the balance maintained among the 9 worlds. The roots of Yggdrasil reached 3 separate locations. One root stretched into Asgard and lay beside the well known as Urd's Well. The Norns gathered at this well, weaving the strands of fate and determining the destiny of gods and mortals alike. Another root lied in Jotunheim, near a well belonging to the wise giant Mimir. From this well came knowledge deeper than the surface of any story. Knowledge so powerful that even Odin sought it at great cost. The third root plunged into the cold depths of Niflheim, drawing nourishment from the primordial waters of Hvergelmir. Together, these 3 wells sustained Yggdrasil and connected the realms in a balance that allowed creation to flourish. The structure of the 3 levels and the 9 worlds demonstrated that no realm existed in isolation. Every decision made in the upper realms sent ripples through the middle world and downward into the depths. Every movement in the shadows of the lower realms shaped the future of the lands above. Yggdrasil served as the conduit for these connections. It embraced all worlds, held them in its branches, and bound them into one cohesive reality. The tree's presence ensured that creation endured, that order prevailed over chaos, and that the stories of gods, giants, humans, and spirits continued through the ages. As the cosmos settled into this intricate structure, the 9 worlds began to develop their individual identities. Each realm gained its own character, inhabitants, and challenges. The stories of these realms would soon take shape, weaving together in a tapestry held firmly by the strength of Yggdrasil's trunk. Even the gods, who stood at the center of the upper worlds, recognized that they were but one part of a larger picture. Yggdrasil remained above them and beneath them. It sustained them and witnessed their deeds. It carried the weight of creation on its branches and roots. With the foundation of the cosmos established, the journey through the 9 worlds would soon begin. The story of the divine realm of Asgard was the first to rise from the growing tapestry of myths, shaping the upper level of existence with a brilliance unlike any other. The world tree waited silently as the halls of the gods grew in splendor, preparing to play its role in the unfolding destiny of all realms. High above the middle world, supported by the strong and ancient branches of Yggdrasil, Asgard began to take shape as the realm of the Aesir. This was the domain where order, authority, and cosmic responsibility converged. The landscape gleamed with a radiance different from the light of any star, because the glow that touched Asgard arose not from fire or flame, but from the presence of divine purpose. The Aesir understood that their realm would stand as the guiding force of creation, and they built it with care, reverence, and unshakable intention. Asgard grew into a network of shining halls, sprawling fields, and towering structures. The halls of the gods stood upon massive foundations carved from the essence of the world itself. The air carried a clarity that sharpened thought and strengthened resolve. Every stone, every beam, and every archway in Asgard reflected the ideals of those who lived there. It was a realm shaped not only by craftsmanship, but by the will of its inhabitants. The Aesir fashioned their domain as a place where destiny could be measured, where justice could be declared, and where the fate of worlds could be discussed with gravitas. At the heart of Asgard lay the grand hall known as Gladsheim, a gathering place where the gods met to make decisions that affected the entire cosmos. Odin presided over these meetings with a gaze that seemed to pierce through layers of reality. His rule was not based on fear, but on the wisdom he had earned through sacrifice and relentless pursuit of knowledge. Vili and Ve, his brothers, also played their part in shaping the order that held the realms together. The Council of the Aesir spoke often of balance, of maintaining harmony among the 9 worlds, and of protecting existence from forces that threatened to undo it. One of the most striking features of Asgard was the shimmering bridge that connected it to Midgard. This bridge was called Bifrost, a brilliant arc of light that stretched across the sky like a solid rainbow forged from divine energy. It served as the only direct pathway between the realm of gods and the realm of mortals. Bifrost was guarded with unwavering resolve by Heimdall, a watchful deity gifted with senses sharper than any being in creation. Heimdall could hear the grass grow on distant hills and could see travelers approach from unimaginable distances. His duty was to stand at the threshold, to observe every movement between the realms, and to ensure that no threat crossed into Asgard without notice. The presence of Bifrost represented more than a simple connection. It symbolized the relationship between gods and humans, a reminder that even though the Aesir lived far above the world of mortals, their fates were deeply linked. Through this bridge, heroes would one day travel to Asgard, and the gods would from time to time cross into the middle world to guide, test, or protect those who lived there. The bridge stood as a testament to the unity and division between realms, a glowing path that carried profound significance for all who saw it. Among the many halls of Asgard, none commanded greater reverence than Valhalla. This immense hall, built with towering beams and golden shields hung upon its walls, stood as the final resting place for the most honorable warriors of Midgard. These chosen individuals did not reach Valhalla by chance, but by courage displayed in the face of mortal danger. When a warrior met a worthy end, the Valkyries, fierce and noble maidens of battle, carried the fallen hero across the sky to the gates of Valhalla. Inside, the honored dead lived in an eternal cycle of feasting, training, and preparing for the final conflict that would one day engulf all realms. Valhalla was both reward and responsibility, a place where strength and loyalty were refined for the ultimate purpose of safeguarding the future. Asgard was not solely a place of warriors, it was also a domain of scholars, seers, and guardians of wisdom. Frigg, the queen of Asgard and wife of Odin, possessed insights into fate that even the Norns respected. She held knowledge of the threads woven at Urd's well, yet she rarely revealed what she knew, understanding that destiny must unfold in its own time. Her calm presence balanced the energies of Asgard, providing a center of grace within the realm's ceaseless activity. Other gods contributed to Asgard's character in their own ways. Thor, the mighty protector, was the defender of both gods and mortals, wielding his hammer Mjolnir with unmatched strength. His presence brought security to the realm, for no threat could breach Asgard without first confronting his formidable power. Tyr, the god of law and justice, maintained order through unyielding fairness. Idun, keeper of the apples of eternal youth, ensured that the gods retained their vitality. Each deity served a role that reinforced the stability of Asgard, and by extension, the equilibrium of the 9 worlds. The halls of Asgard were filled with daily activity that reflected the responsibilities of its inhabitants. Discussions of cosmic events, training sessions for warriors, the forging of weapons, the study of runes, and the observation of distant realms through magical means, all contributed to the vibrant life of the upper world. Despite its beauty, Asgard carried the weight of vigilance. The gods understood that threats could rise unexpectedly from Jotunheim, from the deep roots of Niflheim, or from the shadows of realms yet unknown. Their duty required constant attention, for the balance of creation was delicate. Asgard's position among the branches of Yggdrasil gave it an unparalleled vantage point. From its height, the gods could observe the movements of stars, the formation of storms, and the changes in every world below. Time seemed to flow differently in Asgard, allowing the gods to reflect with clarity and act with precision. Yet even with this advantage, they respected the boundaries of fate. They knew that the threads woven by the Norns could not be altered lightly, and that every action carried consequences that rippled through all realms. As the realm of the Aesir continued to grow, it became more than a home for the gods. It became the center of divine authority, the seat of leadership, and the source of many of the stories that shaped the identity of the 9 worlds. The halls of Asgard echoed with tales of triumph, sorrow, loyalty, and betrayal. The Aesir lived not only as rulers, but as participants in the destiny of creation, each playing a role in the grand design upheld by Yggdrasil. The realm of Asgard remained a symbol of strength, wisdom, and order. It stood as a shining beacon within the cosmos, a reminder that even in a world shaped by ice, fire, and ancient forces, there existed a place devoted to purpose and balance. The stories born within Asgard would soon give rise to alliances, conflicts, and journeys that would affect every corner of the 9 worlds. As the tale continues, another divine realm awaits, shaped by a history intertwined with Asgard and vital to the future of all existence. Before the gods of Asgard rose to prominence, another divine lineage existed whose influence reached into the oldest mysteries of the cosmos. This lineage was known as the Vanir, a group of deities deeply connected to nature, fertility, prosperity, and the quiet rhythms that guided life's growth. Their homeland was Vanaheim, a realm shaped by gentle rivers, rich valleys, and ancient forests that reflected the Vanir's close bond with the cycles of the natural world. While Asgard embodied order, law, and the authority of the Aesir, Vanaheim embodied a more fluid strength, one rooted in harmony and renewal. The Vanir were unlike the Aesir in many ways. Their powers focused less on warfare or dominion and more on nurturing the forces that sustained the earth. They understood the language of soil, the breath of wind, and the secrets held deep within hidden springs. Their magic grew from a connection to the land, enabling them to influence harvests, calm storms, or grant prosperity to entire communities. This difference in nature shaped Vanaheim itself. The realm seemed to flow with a peaceful rhythm, its landscapes untouched by the complexities of conflict. For a time, Vanaheim and Asgard existed separately, each maintaining its own identity and values. Yet as creation matured and the 9 worlds settled into their places upon Yggdrasil, a tension arose between the two divine groups. The Aesir valued discipline and direct action, while the Vanir valued patience and harmony. Their differences soon expanded into suspicion, and suspicion grew into resentment. The Aesir questioned the Vanir's practices, believing that their magic was unpredictable. The Vanir, in turn, questioned the Aesir's strict approach to maintaining order, viewing it as an imbalance in the natural flow of things. The friction between the two realms eventually sparked a conflict that would be remembered as the war between the Aesir and the Vanir. Unlike the battles of mortals, this war spanned realms and echoed across the branches of Yggdrasil. The Aesir launched their strikes with precision and discipline, relying on strength and strategy. The Vanir countered with spells that reshaped the battlefield, altering winds, waters, and the very ground beneath their feet. The war raged fiercely, not because of hatred, but because both sides held firm in their beliefs and refused to yield their principles. Despite the intensity of the conflict, the war could not last forever. The power of both groups was immense, and neither side gained decisive victory. The gods soon realized that the war threatened the balance of creation itself. If they continued, the damage could extend into realms far beyond their own. Recognizing this danger, the Aesir and Vanir finally agreed to seek peace. This decision became a turning point in the history of the 9 worlds, for it marked the moment when two sets of divine ideals blended to create a stronger, more unified cosmic order. To seal this peace, both sides exchanged important members of their tribes. The Vanir sent 3 of their most esteemed figures to Asgard: Njord, Freyr, and Freya. Njord governed the seas and winds, guiding sailors and blessing those who relied on the ocean. Freyr embodied peace, fertility, and the prosperity of the land. Freya held mastery over beauty, desire, and powerful forms of magic. These 3 became essential figures in Asgard, their presence enriching the Aesir with wisdom that had once belonged only to Vanaheim. In return, the Aesir sent 2 of their own to live among the Vanir, demonstrating trust and equality. Over time, These exchanges forged bonds that slowly replaced past resentment. The Aesir learned that the Vanir's approach to nature was not chaos, but balance. The Vanir learned that the Aesir's pursuit of order provided stability for creation. Through this blending of strengths, the two groups shaped a more complete understanding of the universe. Vanaheim continued to embody tranquility, even as the gods moved toward unity. Its rivers reflected the sky like polished mirrors. Its fields produced abundant harvests that symbolized the harmony between soil and sunlight. Forests stretched across the horizon, filled with life that thrived under the gentle guidance of the Vanir. Travelers who entered Vanaheim felt an immediate sense of peace, as though the land itself welcomed them. Every corner of the realm echoed with the quiet message that life flourishes when nurtured with patience and respect. Freyr, one of the Vanir welcomed into Asgard, remained deeply connected to Vanaheim. Though he took his place among the Aesir, his heart carried the rhythms of his homeland. He became a bridge between the realms, serving as a reminder that unity was possible even between gods of vastly different natures. His presence influenced the Aesir in ways that extended far beyond battle or leadership. It introduced new perspectives on growth, prosperity, and interconnectedness. Through him, the gods of Asgard gained a richer understanding of how their actions affected the natural world. Freya brought to Asgard a mastery of magic unmatched by any other deity. She practiced a form of sorcery called Seder, which allowed her to see potential futures, manipulate fate, and influence emotions. Her abilities fascinated the Aesir, many of whom had never encountered such delicate yet powerful forms of magic. Under her guidance, Odin himself sought to learn Seder, recognizing that knowledge must be pursued regardless of its origin. Freya's presence shifted the cultural boundaries between Aesir and Vanir, further blending their once separate strengths. Njord, father of Freyr and Freya, served as the divine force over oceans and coastal lands. His connection to wind and sea enriched Asgard with an understanding of the vast waters that surrounded Midgard. With Njord's guidance, the gods gained the ability to aid sailors, calm storms, and protect coastal communities. His presence reinforced the idea that the realm of the gods must be attuned to all aspects of creation, not solely the domains they originally commanded. Through these exchanges, the Aesir and Vanir forged a lasting alliance. The peace between them symbolized the importance of unity in a universe sustained by balance. As a result, Vanaheim became more than a distant realm. It became a reminder of the beauty that emerges when strength and gentleness coexist. It represented the harmony achieved when different philosophies embrace each other rather than clash. As Yggdrasil continued to support the Nine Worlds, the combined wisdom of Aesir and Vanir strengthened the upper realms. The tensions that once divided them transformed into mutual respect. Together they shaped a future in which both order and nature could thrive. Their alliance influenced the unfolding stories of gods, humans, and giants, ensuring that the cosmos remained steady in the face of challenges that would one day rise from both known and hidden realms. With peace established and the Aesir strengthened by their new allies, attention soon turned to another realm, one filled with radiant beings and ancient light. As the tale continues, the next world to emerge in the tapestry of Yggdrasil is Alfheim, a land of brilliance and quiet power. Alfheim rose in the early ages of the Nine Worlds as a realm touched by radiance. It stood not in the blazing fire of Muspelheim, nor in the harsh brilliance of the sun, but in a softer, more ancient glow that seemed woven from the first beams of dawn. Its light did not burn, it illuminated, it revealed. It shaped everything that existed within its borders. From a distance, the realm appeared like a suspended garden that floated along the gentle curve of Yggdrasil's great branches. Fields of silver grasses swayed without wind. Rivers shimmered with pale colors that shifted between gold and blue. Trees grew in spirals, as if reaching toward melodies only they could hear. Every leaf carried a faint glow, as if it remembered the moment creation awakened. Even the air felt alive with a quiet hum that vibrated like distant strings of a harp. Alfheim was home to the Light Elves, a people known not for physical strength or towering size, but for grace, insight, and an almost unsettling presence of serenity. They moved with steps so soft that they seemed to drift rather than walk. Their eyes reflected the illumination of their realm, and their voices drifted like flowing water. To many, they appeared gentle, yet beneath that gentleness lay an awareness far older than most other beings could understand. The Light Elves did not shape the world through force. They shaped it through influence. They were the watchers of paths unseen, the stewards of beauty, and the quiet guardians of harmony in the 9 worlds. Their connection to Yggdrasil was deeper than mere proximity. They lived within the very heartbeat of the tree. They listened to the faint creaking of its branches, the subtle tremor of its roots, the endless flow of life that moved through its sap. Odin knew the value of the Light Elves. When he sought knowledge from every corner of existence, he understood that wisdom did not come only from battle, storms, or prophecy. It also came from silence, clarity, and the kind of vision that could detect the smallest shift in destiny. For this reason, the god Freyr, one of the Vanir who had become part of the Aesir after the Great War, was given rulership over Alfheim. The realm flourished under his presence, because Freyr carried within him a natural bond to growth, peace, and light. Under his watch, the Light Elves did not withdraw from the world, but became even more aware of the delicate harmony that bound all realms together. The Light Elves were not warriors, yet they were not defenseless. They wielded craft rather than weapons. Their ability to shape light into illusions allowed them to disguise entire regions of Alfheim when threats approached. They strengthened the branches of Yggdrasil by nurturing small roots, guiding them like gardeners of reality. They sang to the tree in melodic lines that helped stabilize the flow of energy between the realms. Even the dew that formed on the petals of Alfheim's flowers held a kind of magic, carrying soft echoes of memory from every corner of existence. Among the elves lived a group known as the Moonveil Circle. They were scholars who devoted their lives to reading the changing light of Alfheim. They believed that every shift in brightness, however faint, was a message from Yggdrasil. At times, they detected disturbances long before they manifested anywhere else. When the winds of Jotunheim stirred with unusual intensity, the circle sensed it as a dimming along the far horizon. When a spark from Muspelheim drifted too close to the tree, they felt a tremor beneath their feet. Their role was not to intervene, but to interpret, advise, and maintain balance. Freyr often sought their counsel. Though he was a powerful deity tied to the cycles of fertility and life, he also recognized that Alfheim's harmony was fragile. Light could fade as easily as it could grow. He walked the luminous groves with a watchful eye, observing the subtle play of energy that coursed through the realm. His presence strengthened the bond between Alfheim and the other worlds. All the while, he carried within him an unspoken understanding that darkness existed everywhere, even in the brightest places. Despite their peaceful nature, the Light Elves did encounter beings from other realms. Travelers from Midgard sometimes glimpsed them as streaks of brightness moving through forests at twilight. Dwarves from Nidavellir occasionally visited to trade rare metals for shards of crystalline dew that could be used in forging enchanted tools. Even the giants of Jotunheim appeared at times, though they were regarded with caution. The elves trusted few outside their realm because they knew that beauty attracted desire, and desire attracted danger. The Light Elves also shared an uneasy relationship with the Dark Elves of Svartalfheim, though the true nature of that realm would be explored later in the tale. The two peoples were not enemies, yet they understood each other poorly. Where the Light Elves prized clarity and openness, the Dark Elves prized secrecy and depth. Their contrast shaped many of the tensions that rippled quietly through the 9 worlds. One of the most remarkable features of Alfheim was the Aurora Bridge, a shimmering path that connected the realm to one of Yggdrasil's higher limbs. It resembled a ribbon of shifting color that extended across the sky. Only those invited by Freyr or guided by the Light Elves could cross it. Mortals who attempted the journey without permission would become lost in the radiance, wandering until the light released them back where they started. Gods, however, could cross with careful intent, and many did so throughout the ages, seeking insight, blessing, or simply a moment of calm away from the turmoil of the other worlds. The Aurora Bridge played an important role in the balance of realms. During times of cosmic tension, when storms churned through the roots of Yggdrasil, the bridge softened those shocks. Its glow acted like a buffer that prevented vibrations from damaging the tree. Without Alfheim's presence, the 9 worlds would have been more susceptible to imbalance. Though the Light Elves rarely left their realm, they contributed to the stability of creation more than most would ever know. Despite the realm's peaceful appearance, a deeper undercurrent flowed through its history. The Light Elves understood that harmony required constant attention. They could sense changes in the world long before others noticed. Faint shadows sometimes brushed the outer edge of Alfheim's glow. Some came from Jotunheim, others from darker corners of Yggdrasil. The elves did not fear these signs. They studied them with quiet resolve. They knew that destiny moved like a river, steady yet unpredictable, and that every realm, no matter how radiant, played a part in the grand story of existence. As ages passed, Alfheim continued to shine as one of the most serene places in all creation. Its gentle glow touched the hearts of gods, giants, and mortals alike. Yet beneath that glow lay awareness. Beneath the beauty lay vigilance. Alfheim was not simply a realm of light. It was a realm of balance, insight, and prophetic stillness. And though its people rarely stepped into the affairs of other worlds, they were always watching. They knew the tree whispered warnings. They knew the light could shift. Every shimmer along their horizon held meaning. The 9 worlds were vast and ever-changing. Alfheim remained a guiding radiance within them. Its silence shaped peace. Its glow shaped hope. And its people shaped the unseen harmony that kept the cosmos from falling into chaos. In the stories yet to unfold, this realm of light would continue to illuminate the path ahead, whether the beings of other realms realized it or not. Deep beneath the twisting roots of Yggdrasil lay a realm where sunlight had never pierced the stone. This was Svartalfheim, the land of the Dark Elves, and the master artisans who shaped wonders unmatched in any other world. Though the name of the realm was often spoken with uncertainty or mistrust, Its influence reached every corner of the cosmos, for without the work of its inhabitants, many of the greatest relics and legends of the gods would never have existed. Svartalfheim was a maze of caverns, forges, and tunnels that stretched so vast and deep that no one, not even the dwarves themselves, claimed to know its full boundaries. Rivers of molten rock cut through the stone like glowing veins. Pillars rose from the earth, shaped by natural pressure over eons. Caverns opened into chambers so immense that their ceilings were lost in darkness. The air carried the scent of metal, heat, and ancient earth. Stone walls glimmered with minerals that absorbed light instead of reflecting it, giving the realm its unusual, dim presence. While Alfheim shone with gentle radiance and soft melodies, Svartalfheim pulsed with the steady rhythm of hammer striking metal. Sparks illuminated the gloom with flashes of orange and white. Every sound, from the turn of gears to the hiss of cooling metal, was part of a grand symphony of craft and creation. This was not a place of peace. It was a place of relentless industry, driven by the brilliance and stubbornness of its people. The dark elves of Svartalfheim were not malevolent beings, though their appearance and manner often led others to misunderstand them. Their skin bore the tone of shadowed stone. Their eyes glowed faintly with colors that seemed to shift like embers. Their voices carried a quiet rasp, worn from centuries spent near smoke and metal. Despite these features, they were neither corrupt nor evil. They simply belonged to a world where light was scarce, and the earth itself demanded strength. These artisans possessed a skill unmatched by any other race. They could bend metal in ways that defied expectation. They could forge items that held power far beyond their physical form. Each dark elf dedicated their life to a single craft, whether it was forging, carving, engraving, weaving metal threads, or shaping runes. They believed that mastery came only through total devotion, and that every creation carried a piece of the maker's soul. This devotion drew the attention of the gods. Throughout the ages, the Aesir descended into Svartalfheim seeking relics of great power. The realm played a central role in shaping the weapons and treasures that defined divine history. One of the most famous tales involved the forging of Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor. Though the full story would come later in the saga, its roots lay in the deep caverns of this shadowed realm. Even now, echoes of that legendary forging reverberated through the stone halls, remembered by every artisan who heard the tale. Unlike the light elves who nurtured harmony, the dark elves were exact and stern. They respected precision above all. Mistakes were treated as lessons carved into memory. Success was never taken for granted. A single flaw in a blade or a single imperfection in a rune could mean failure. Their eyes could detect misalignments invisible to others. Their hands possessed an instinctive understanding of weight, heat, and texture. The realm's greatest workshop was the Hall of Ember Vaults, a structure carved from an enormous cavern whose ceiling glowed with faint patterns of luminescent minerals. Here, the finest smiths worked day and night, guided by the legendary brothers Brokkr and Sindri. Their names were known even in Asgard. Their craftsmanship was so refined that many said the gods themselves envied their talent. They were responsible for forging some of the most iconic treasures in all the 9 worlds, and their presence commanded deep respect. In the Ember Vaults, enormous furnaces burned with heat so intense that even fire spirits avoided going too close. These flames were not ordinary. They were fed by enchanted coals mined from the depths of Svartalfheim, each capable of burning without dimming for centuries. The Dark Elves believed that these flames contained memories of the world's earliest fires, and that they whispered secrets to those who listened carefully. Life in Svartalfheim was harsh but structured. The Dark Elves built intricate systems of tunnels, elevators, and stone bridges that allowed them to move swiftly between workshops and mining chambers. They carved runes into doorways to protect against cave-ins, and infused the walls with enchantments that prevented toxic fumes from accumulating. Their society valued discipline, teamwork, and endurance. Every elf knew their place in the grand mechanism of creation. Despite their underground existence, the Dark Elves were not isolated. They traded with dwarves from Nidavellir, who admired their artistry while maintaining a competitive rivalry. They interacted with giants who sought specialized weapons. Even the Aesir visited when they required tools of immense power. Yet interactions were always cautious. The Dark Elves guarded their knowledge fiercely. They believed that true power came not from the artifact, but from the understanding behind it. One of the most mysterious groups within Svartalfheim was the Rune Shapers. These individuals did not work with metal alone. They etched runes into the very fabric of stone, air, and energy. They believed that everything held a secret pattern waiting to be revealed. Their task was to interpret these patterns and bind them into objects with precision so exact that even Odin showed deep respect for their work. Their libraries contained scrolls filled with symbols that shifted as the reader studied them, as if alive with hidden intention. As though Svartalfheim seemed dark and foreboding, it played a vital role in the balance of the Nine Worlds. Its people created tools that shaped destiny. They forged links between realms through runic bridges. They strengthened the foundations of Yggdrasil by reforging weakened roots into metallic lattices that stabilized the tree. They worked tirelessly to prevent the physical collapse of creation, even if they rarely received acknowledgement for their efforts. The realm did not lack danger. Caverns sometimes shifted unexpectedly. Rivers of magma carved new paths without warning. Strange creatures born from molten rock roamed the tunnels. Yet the Dark Elves thrived in this environment. They viewed danger as another material to be shaped and understood. Their resilience allowed them to face challenges that would have driven others away. Visitors often left Svartalfheim with mixed feelings. Some felt awe at the level of craftsmanship. Others felt unease at the realm's darkness. Yet all agreed on one truth. The artisans of Svartalfheim created works that endured. In a world where gods fell in battle and stars shifted across the sky, the creations of the Dark Elves remained unbroken. As the Nine Worlds continued to change, Svartalfheim remained steadfast. Its forges burned, its hammers rang. Its people shaped the impossible. And though much of their work remained hidden in shadows, its influence illuminated destiny itself. For every relic forged in this realm carried a story. Every blade, every charm, every runic artifact held the memory of the craftsman who shaped it. And these memories would echo long after the story of the gods reached its final chapter. Deep within the lower regions of Yggdrasil lay a realm shaped not by light nor shadow, but by stone, metal, and unyielding endurance. This was Nidavellir, the land of the dwarves, renowned throughout the Nine Worlds for unmatched skill in craftsmanship, engineering, and invention. While Svartalfheim pulsed with mysterious artistry in the darkness, Nidavellir stood as its counterpart, a realm built upon structure, precision, and tireless labor that echoed with a different kind of brilliance. Nidavellir was a world carved out of solid rock. Vast networks of tunnels spiraled down into the earth, illuminated by glowing crystals embedded in the cavern walls. Bridges of stone and metal spanned deep chasms. Waterfalls cascaded from underground rivers, powering enormous mechanisms that turned gears and pistons. The dwarves built everything with purpose, leaving no chamber unshaped, no tunnel unreinforced. Their realm was not chaotic. It was engineered like a colossal machine, humming with order and intention. Unlike Svartalfheim, where corridors felt alive with enchantment, Nidavellir's strength came from the solid certainty of stone. The walls bore markings from countless ages of carving. Floors were smooth from generations of dwarves marching with tools slung across their backs. Every chamber had a specific function. Some were for forging weapons, others housed furnaces that glowed with intense heat. Others served as assembly halls, where dwarves debated the merits of new designs or argued over the proper angle of a hammer strike. The dwarves were short in stature but powerful in build, with broad shoulders, thick arms, and hands formed by years of gripping tools. Their beards were woven with metal rings and bands. Their eyes gleamed with determination and focus. They valued practicality above elegance, reliability above appearance, yet their skill rivaled even the finest artisans of Svartalfheim. While the Dark Elves shaped magic through mystery, the dwarves shaped it through method. They were problem solvers, inventors, engineers, and smiths whose creations stood the test of time. The heart of Nidavellir was the Great Forge, a monumental chamber that stretched high enough to contain pillars of stone carved in the likeness of ancient ancestors. The temperature inside the forge was intense, heated by magma channels diverted from deep beneath the earth. At the center stood a massive anvil said to have been forged from a fragment of a meteorite that fell during the earliest age of the cosmos. Around it, the greatest dwarf smiths worked in shifts, maintaining the eternal flame that powered many of the realm's mechanisms. While the dwarves were famous for their weapons, they also created devices of remarkable variety. They forged gears capable of turning enormous machines, lamps that shone with perpetual brightness, and tools so finely crafted that even the gods marveled at their precision. They built constructs that could move on their own, and mechanical birds that delivered messages across the realm. Their engineering achievements exceeded what most mortals could comprehend. The dwarves' relationship with the Aesir was complicated. Odin and the gods respected their skill and often relied on them for important creations. Many legendary items crafted for the gods originated in Nidavellir. Gleipnir, the enchanted chain that would one day bind Fenrir, owed its impossible strength to dwarven ingenuity. Other treasures, lesser known but equally vital, helped shape the stability of the realms. Yet the dwarves were not easily impressed. They did not bow to gods merely because they held divine power. Respect was earned through deeds, precision, and flawless craftsmanship. Dwarven society was organized into clans, each specializing in a different discipline. The Anvil-born clan forged weapons and armor. The Stonewheel clan created machines powered by gears and waterworks. The Crystalvein clan mined precious minerals and shaped gems of extraordinary clarity. Each clan took great pride in its heritage and guarded its secrets fiercely. Rivalry between clans was common, but it never threatened the realm's unity. In Nidavellir, rivalry was a source of excellence. pushing every clan to perfect their craft. Their greatest resource was the world ore, a rare metal found only in the deepest caverns. This material held properties unlike any other. It could endure extreme heat without melting. It could hold enchantments with remarkable stability. When worked correctly, it produced a resonance that enhanced the magical qualities of anything imbued with it. The dwarves treated this ore with utmost reverence, forging it only for creations of enormous importance. Many of the gods' most powerful items contained traces of world ore, and its rarity made each piece invaluable. Despite their brilliance, the dwarves faced constant danger in their realm. Tunnels sometimes collapsed without warning. Geysers of steam erupted from cracks in the stone. Creatures born from molten rock prowled the deeper regions. Even so, the dwarves did not shy away from these hazards. They saw the realm's dangers as challenges to overcome with better tools and improved engineering. Their resilience allowed them to thrive where others would have struggled to survive. Though the dwarves were proud, they were not without humor. They often engaged in loud debates, argued passionately about the best forging techniques, and laughed heartily when recounting stories of past mishaps. Their gatherings in the Great Hall were filled with music created from instruments forged of metal and stone. They drank strong ale brewed from underground herbs, and celebrated every successful creation with feasts that echoed through the caverns. One of the remarkable features of Nidavellir was the furnace spine, an immense column of rock that rose from the realm's deepest pit. It pulsed with internal heat and glowed with faint crimson veins. The dwarves believed it was a remnant of the earliest fire born during the creation of the 9 worlds. They built walkways and platforms around it, using its heat to power enormous bellows and hammers that shaped metal with precision unmatched anywhere else. Some believed the furnace spine was connected directly to Muspelheim through hidden channels deep in the earth. Despite the dwarves' practical nature, there were mysteries in the realm that even they did not fully understand. Strange symbols appeared at times along the cavern walls, glowing briefly before fading into stone. Some believed these markings were connected to the roots of Yggdrasil, as if the tree communicated through signs etched by forces beyond their comprehension. While the dwarves rarely pursued these mysteries, they acknowledged their existence with respect and caution. Nidavellir's significance in the 9 worlds was immense. Its creations influenced countless events. Its forges provided the means for gods to maintain balance and power. Its mechanisms supported unseen functions of the cosmos. The dwarves never claimed credit for the grand stories of the realms, yet their contributions formed the backbone of many legends. As ages passed, the realm continued to echo with the ring of hammers and the roar of furnaces. The dwarves remained steadfast, devoted to their craft, unimpressed by praise, yet driven by an unyielding desire for perfection. In a universe shaped by gods, giants, and mystical forces, Nidavellir stood as a testament to what perseverance could achieve. It was a realm of creation, of ingenuity, and of unwavering discipline, forming a vital link in the chain that bound the 9 worlds together. Far beneath the oldest memories of the 9 worlds, beyond the reach of sunlight, and deeper still than the darkest chasms, lay a realm older than the first dawn. This was Niflheim, the world of primordial ice. Long before gods carved order from chaos, Before the first giant stirred in Ginnungagap, Niflheim existed as a silent kingdom of frost, shaped by endless cold and ancient stillness. It was not merely a frozen land. It was the place where creation first whispered to itself, and where the earliest rivers of existence began their journey. Niflheim's landscape stretched across a vast expanse of glacial plains, towering ice cliffs, and frozen storms that drifted like living walls of mist. The air was sharp enough to cut through flesh. The ground shifted beneath layers of ice so thick that entire mountains lay buried beneath them. Frost formed patterns on the surface that resembled runes from forgotten ages. These patterns changed with the passing of unseen forces, as if the land itself breathed with the memory of the cosmos, long before time gained meaning. At the heart of Niflheim lay the wellspring known as Hvergelmir. It was one of the oldest sources of water in existence, and the origin point of several rivers that flowed across the 9 worlds. The well did not simply produce water. It produced the essence of potential. Every ripple carried traces of ages yet to come. Steam rose from its surface, forming swirling plumes that drifted across the frost fields. Beneath the water's surface, currents swirled with strange luminosity, hinting at power hidden deep within the earth. Hvergelmir was guarded by serpents and creatures born of ice. Some slithered across the frozen ground, leaving trails of frost that crystallized instantly. Others coiled around towering stalagmites, watching movements near the well with patient eyes. Among them was Nidhogg, a dragon of great hunger who gnawed constantly at one of the roots of Yggdrasil that extended into Niflheim. His scales glimmered with frost, and his breath chilled the air around him. His endless gnawing symbolized the slow erosion of existence, a reminder that even the mightiest forces could be worn down by time. Despite the harshness of the realm, Niflheim played an essential role in the balance of the 9 worlds. Its cold stabilized the heat of Muspelheim. Its stillness balanced the motion of the cosmos. Without Niflheim, the roots of Yggdrasil would lack the anchoring force that kept the tree grounded. Even the gods understood that this frozen land held power beyond comprehension. The earliest beings who wandered Niflheim sensed its ancient pulse. Giants, whose ancestors remembered the void, found solace in its unchanging presence. Spirits formed from frost drifted across the plains, whispering through the icy winds. They were not malicious. They were remnants of the first cold, echoes that embodied the silence before creation's earliest breath. Some believed these spirits held memories of the time when frost alone shaped the universe, long before fire challenged its dominion. Structures in Niflheim were rare. Those that existed were formed naturally by the realm's forces. Great walls of ice rose like fortresses carved by relentless winds. Caverns extended deep into the frozen earth, their entrances marked by jagged formations resembling teeth. The realm's rivers flowed slowly, sometimes freezing mid-current and trapping shapes beneath the surface, preserved for ages. On rare occasions, the ice cracked with thunderous sound, revealing pockets of warmth beneath the frozen crust. These bursts of heat were believed to be remnants of ancient interactions between frost and fire, a testament to the birth of creation within Ginnungagap. Though few traveled to Niflheim, Those who did spoke of its haunting beauty. The sky above the realm shimmered with faint bands of blue and silver. Snowflakes drifted in patterns so intricate that scholars believed they carried hidden messages. The ground reflected starlight from distant worlds, casting shimmering reflections across the frost. Silence dominated the realm, broken only by the occasional crack of ice or the distant roar of Nidhogg. Yet Niflheim was not without danger. Hidden beneath the frost were pits of deadly cold, capable of freezing anything that touched them in an instant. Waves of icy mist swept across the land unexpectedly, disorienting even the most experienced travelers. Creatures shaped by the frost hunted silently, their bodies blending so perfectly into the environment that they remained invisible until they struck. Even gods approached this realm with caution. They respected Niflheim, not because it was hostile, but because it was ancient. Despite its stillness, Niflheim was deeply connected to the flow of fate. The waters of Hvergelmir fed the roots of Yggdrasil, nurturing a cycle that sustained the worlds. These waters carried secrets. Some claimed that if one stared long enough into their surface, they could glimpse distant futures or forgotten pasts. Very few dared to test this belief, for fear that the visions might consume their minds. The Norns, the weavers of destiny, visited Hvergelmir rarely, preferring instead to draw from other wells. Yet even they acknowledged the importance of this ancient source. The realm's influence extended subtly across the cosmos. When storms formed in Jotunheim, their origins often traced back to shifts within Niflheim's frost fields. When rivers surged in Midgard, echoes of Hvergelmir's currents could be felt. Even the fire giants of Muspelheim occasionally sensed tremors in the earth caused by fluctuations deep beneath the ice. Niflheim was quiet, yet powerful. Still, yet essential. One of the most mysterious sights in the realm was the Frost Vault, a cavern deep beneath the ice that held ancient relics from the earliest ages. No one knew who placed them there. Some believed they were remnants of beings long gone. Others believed they were artifacts, created when frost and fire first collided in the void. The dwarves whispered legends of a metal so cold that even enchanted flames could not melt it, buried deep within the frost vault. Scholars from Alfheim speculated that the vault held crystalline fragments containing echoes of pre-creation energies. None could confirm these theories. Few had reached the Frost Vault and returned. Niflheim's role in the Nine Worlds was not one of creation or destruction, but of preservation. It held the memory of the cosmos in its frozen expanse. It kept ancient energies contained. It provided the stillness necessary for the other realms to flourish. Without Niflheim, the balance of creation would collapse. Fire would overwhelm the worlds. Rivers would lose their origin. Yggdrasil would tremble without stability beneath its roots. As the ages continued, Niflheim remained unchanged. Frost spread across its plains. Winds howled through its chasms. Hvergelmir continued to flow, carrying whispers of events unfolding across distant realms. Nidhogg maintained his relentless task, gnawing at the root, as a reminder that even the foundations of existence faced erosion. The realm did not change, because it was not meant to. It existed as the constant in a universe defined by motion. Yet even in its stillness, Niflheim held significance that would echo into the stories yet to unfold. The realm of frost had witnessed the birth of creation. It would one day witness its end. And when that time came, The frozen winds of Niflheim would carry the final echoes of a world that had risen from the void and lived beneath the branches of the great tree. Far beyond the reach of frost and deeper than any cavern of ice, there existed a realm where heat was not simply temperature, but force, will, and creation. This was Muspelheim, the world of everlasting fire. It was said that before anything gained form, before the first spark of life ignited within the void, flames had already danced across this realm in wild storms of blazing power. Muspelheim was not made, it simply was. Its fires burned with the same intensity they possessed in the earliest age of the cosmos. Time could not dim them. Darkness could not swallow them. Not even the cold shadow of Niflheim could silence their roar. Muspelheim was a land of shifting magma fields, towering pillars of scorched stone and rivers of molten fire that flowed like living serpents across the terrain. Winds carried embers that swirled in spirals, forming sparks that burst in the air before drifting down like fiery snow. The ground trembled with constant rumbling, as if the realm's core was a massive heart pounding with relentless fury. Each tremor sent waves of heat pulsing outward, reshaping the landscape over and over without end. The sky above Muspelheim glowed with deep shades of red and gold. Waves of flame surged upward like massive tides, then crashed in brilliant explosions that illuminated the heavens. Heat shimmered in the air, twisting shapes and warping horizons. Even the mountains appeared alive, their surfaces shifting as molten veins pulsed beneath the stone. Nothing remained static within Muspelheim. The realm thrived on motion and energy, its nature defined by the fire that consumed and renewed without hesitation. At the center of this fiery world stood Surtur, guardian and king of Muspelheim. His form towered above the flames, forged from primordial fire itself. His skin glowed with molten brilliance. His eyes burned like twin suns. His presence intensified the heat surrounding him. Where Surtur walked, rivers of fire surged with greater force, and sparks burst upward as if celebrating his strength. He wielded a sword forged from the heart of a star. It radiated a searing light strong enough to split mountains and ignite the sky. Stories whispered that one day Surtur would lift this blade and set the world ablaze, fulfilling a destiny woven into the fabric of creation. Surtur commanded legions of fire giants. These beings, shaped from flame and stone, possessed bodies that flickered between solid form and flowing fire. They moved with surprising grace despite their immense size. Their voices rumbled like distant thunderstorms. They lived within colossal fortresses carved into volcanic cliffs. These structures glowed from within, illuminated by rivers of magma that flowed through their halls. The fire giants forged weapons capable of cutting through steel as if it were cloth. Their forges burned without ever cooling, fueled by the realm's endless heat. Although Muspelheim seemed chaotic, it followed its own rhythm. Firestorms traveled predictable paths. Lava flows moved according to ancient patterns. Even the realm's violent eruptions held a certain harmony, as if guided by an unseen force. Scholars across the 9 worlds believed this rhythm reflected Muspelheim's role in creation. Fire had shaped the first forms of the cosmos. Fire transformed raw potential into reality. Without Muspelheim's primordial blaze, the spark of life would never have taken root. The creatures inhabiting Muspelheim were as fierce as the realm itself. Fire serpents slithered across magma fields, leaving glowing trails behind them. Phoenix-like birds soared above the rivers of flame, their wings scattering embers that drifted like burning petals. Massive beasts, forged from molten rock, roamed the plains. Their heavy footsteps cracked the ground. Their bodies glowed with intense heat, illuminating everything around them. Some creatures lurked deep beneath the surface, swimming through magma with tails that churned the liquid into spiraling vortexes. Despite its blistering landscape, Muspelheim held beauty that mesmerized those who dared witness it. Waves of heat created illusions that danced across the horizon. Flames twisted into shapes resembling ancient runes. Lava cascades glowed with dazzling brightness as they fell from cliff edges. Even the air shimmered with a golden radiance. The realm's brilliance inspired awe, reminding onlookers of the raw power from which the cosmos was born. Muspelheim shared an ancient connection with Niflheim. Fire and ice existed as opposites, yet were essential companions in the earliest void. Within Ginnungagap, their forces collided, giving rise to the first giant and the early forms of creation. This interaction echoed throughout the ages. The heat of Muspelheim balanced the cold of Niflheim. Their existence formed the foundation on which the other realms rested. Should either realm falter, the balance of the 9 worlds would collapse. The fire giants respected this balance, even though their nature thrived on destruction. They understood that fire consumed but also created. It tested strength. It purified. It forged new beginnings. Rituals held by the fire giants honored this duality. Flames roared high into the sky during these ceremonies, dancing in patterns that reflected the cosmos. Surtur himself presided over such rituals, channeling the fury of Muspelheim into controlled bursts that lit the horizon with radiant brilliance. Yet beneath the realm's fierce power rested a prophecy known across the worlds. It spoke of a time when Muspelheim's flames would rise higher than ever before. In that distant age, Surtur would lift his blazing sword and march to the final battlefield. The fires of Muspelheim would sweep across the realms. Structures would collapse beneath the heat. Rivers would evaporate. The sky would glow with fiery storms. Many feared this prophecy, yet the fire giants accepted it with solemn pride. To them, the final blaze signified a return to the cosmos's earliest purity, a cleansing fire that would pave the way for renewal. Deep within Muspelheim existed a region known as the Ember Deep, a vast underground expanse where the hottest fires of the realm roared without pause. The Ember Deep was said to be as old as the first spark formed in the void. Its flames burned with a white intensity so powerful that even Surtur approached it with caution. Within this inferno, ancient metals formed, metals capable of channeling energies beyond mortal comprehension. The fire giants forged their most powerful weapons using materials drawn from this region. These weapons were rumored to resist even the cold of Niflheim. Another forgotten area of Muspelheim was the Ashen Plateau, a field of volcanic stone where the flames had dimmed long ago. Although the heat remained intense, the fires no longer danced as wildly. This plateau held remnants from the earliest battles fought by the fire giants. Charred fragments of broken weapons lay scattered across the ground. Tall spires of crystallized flame rose from the surface, casting shimmering shadows. Scholars believed the plateau held imprints of the first clashes between fire and ice. preserved in hardened magma. Muspelheim's influence extended to other realms in subtle ways. Volcanoes in Midgard echoed the realm's eruptions. Lightning storms in Jotunheim reflected its fiery energy. Even the dwarven forges in Nidavellir drew inspiration from the natural heat of Muspelheim, replicating it through their own skill. Fire, born in this ancient land, shaped the lives, tools, and legends of many worlds. Yet, Muspelheim remained unchanged by the passage of ages. Its flames roared with undying strength. Its rivers of fire carved new paths each day. Its skies glowed with fierce radiance. The realm stood as a testament to the raw essence of creation's fire, a reminder that life began with heat and motion. While frost preserved memory, fire awakened potential. Though powerful, Muspelheim did not seek dominance. It existed simply as the force it had always been. Those who respected it found awe. Those who challenged it found ruin. And as the ages moved forward, whispers of the final blaze lingered across the cosmos. One day, the flames of Muspelheim would reach higher than the heavens. One day, Surtur would rise with his blazing sword. One day, the fires that forged the universe would return to claim it. Beyond the burning fires of Muspelheim, and far above the drifting shadows of the lower worlds, lay a realm shaped not by force nor harsh elements, but by brilliance, harmony, and the gentle power of light. This was Alfheim, home of the Light Elves, and one of the most luminous and enchanting worlds suspended upon the branches of Yggdrasil. If the lower realms pulsed with weight, chaos, or struggle, Alfheim shimmered with clarity, grace, and beauty that transcended mortal imagination. It was said that the first dawn the cosmos ever witnessed rose from this realm, and its radiance continued to shine across the 9 worlds through ages uncounted. Alfheim was a land bathed in soft, golden glow. Sunlight drifted across the sky without harsh intensity. The air shimmered, as if filled with tiny particles of pure light, creating a gentle haze that softened every shape. Forests with towering trees stretched across rolling hills. Their leaves glowed with pale silver, swaying in patterns that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the realm. Rivers wound through the forests like ribbons of glass, reflecting shifting colors with each breeze. Everything in Alfheim seemed alive yet peaceful, balanced by an unbroken harmony between nature and magic. The Light Elves, known as the Alfar, were beings of extraordinary beauty and ethereal presence. Their features carried an otherworldly elegance. Their movements were fluid and almost weightless. Their eyes shone with soft radiance, giving the impression that they held fragments of dawn within their gaze. Unlike the dwarves who prized durability, or the fire giants who embodied raw power, the Light Elves valued clarity, artistry, and connection. They lived with purpose, nurturing the energies of their realm and maintaining a delicate harmony that resonated through all creation. Their society flourished within vast cities crafted from shimmering stone and living wood. Structures curved with graceful lines, rising and winding, as if carved by light itself rather than tools. Bridges arched over streams that flowed between the dwellings. Gardens bloomed with flowers that glowed faintly at twilight, their petals shifting colors like living auroras. The Light Elves' architecture reflected their philosophy. Nothing was forced. Everything flowed. Their cities blended into the landscape so perfectly that it was often difficult to distinguish where nature ended and craftsmanship began. Alfheim held lakes of crystal water so clear that one could see every pebble lying beneath the surface. Some lakes reflected not only the sky above, but distant stars that could not be seen with mortal eyes. It was said that these waters connected to deeper layers of magic within Yggdrasil, capturing reflections from realms beyond mortal perception. Trees with luminescent bark stood around these lakes, their branches arching over the water like protective guardians. When the wind blew across the surface, shimmering ripples spread outward like threads of woven light. Unlike many other realms, Alfheim did not rely on towering fortresses or elaborate defenses. Its greatest protection was its own light, which formed natural barriers against creatures or forces that sought harm. Shadows dissolved upon crossing certain boundaries. Dark magic weakened when exposed to the brilliance that radiated from the forests. Even those who carried malice in their hearts felt overwhelmed by a sense of calm upon entering the realm. This made Alfheim a sanctuary not only for the Light Elves, but for many beings who sought peace. The Light Elves held deep reverence for balance. They believed that every realm contributed something vital to the worlds. Muspelheim provided fire to ignite creation. Niflheim delivered cold that shaped precision. Midgard gave mortals strength and resilience. Alfheim offered clarity of thought and illumination of spirit. Because of these beliefs, the Light Elves regularly conducted rituals that aligned their realm with the cosmic flow of Yggdrasil. These ceremonies were held in open fields where rings of light rose from the ground, forming swirling patterns that filled the sky. When the Light Elves sang during these rituals, their voices resonated with breathtaking harmony, carrying across the forests like gentle waves. The ruler of Alfheim was often described as a figure of immense grace and wisdom. Although the ruler's identity shifted across ages, the role remained consistent. This leader guided the Light Elves in preserving equilibrium within the realm, making decisions not through force but through clarity and foresight. Unlike the Aesir or Vanir, who sometimes acted with rash determination, the Light Elves chose patience and reason. They acted only when necessary, and always with the intention of restoring balance rather than asserting control. Alfheim was deeply connected to natural magic. Energy flowed through its trees, streams, and creatures like gentle currents. Instead of bending magic to their will, the Light Elves moved with it. They shaped spells to enhance healing, growth, and illumination. Their magic was quiet, yet profound. A single gesture could cause flowers to bloom, wounds to close, or darkened paths to glow. Light Elf magic did not dominate nature but conversed with it, aligning itself with rhythms far older than the 9 worlds. Among the most revered places within Alfheim was the Valley of Dawns, a wide basin where the first rays of light emerged each morning. This valley held a peculiar property. Each sunrise cast patterns on the ground that shifted slightly each day. Scholars suggested these patterns marked the movement of deeper energies within Yggdrasil. The Light Elves studied the patterns to understand subtle changes in the cosmic balance. Some believed the valley was an anchor point from which dawn spread across all realms. Another remarkable feature of the realm was the Hall of Radiance, an expansive structure carved from translucent crystal. The hall captured sunlight and reflected it in countless directions, filling the entire chamber with dancing beams of color. The light elves used the hall for gatherings, meditation, and moments of decision. When the sun reached its peak, the Hall of Radiance transformed into a spectacle of shifting hues, as if the walls themselves were made of woven sunlight. Some believed the hall amplified the realm's natural energies, making it a focal point for communication between the worlds. Despite their affinity for peace, the Light Elves were not naive. They understood that even the brightest realms cast shadows. They maintained guardians who trained to defend Alfheim should darkness ever attempt to infiltrate. These warriors wielded weapons forged from radiant metal that glowed with internal brilliance. Their armor shimmered like moonlit water. Although light elf warriors rarely engaged in violent conflict, they moved with precision, skill, and calm resolve when needed. Their strength lay not in brute force, but in clarity of purpose. Alfheim's influence extended far beyond its borders. Its light reached into other realms, providing guidance, inspiration, and illumination. In Midgard, legends spoke of shimmering figures who appeared at night to guide lost travelers. In Vanaheim, scholars studied the gentle radiance of Alfheim to enhance their own magic. Even Asgard respected the realm's gifts, acknowledging that wisdom often accompanied light. Creatures that inhabited Alfheim mirrored the realm's serenity. Radiant deer with silver antlers roamed the forests. Their hooves left trails of faint light that lingered briefly on the grass. Birds with iridescent wings circled the trees, producing melodies that harmonized with the whisper of leaves. Small spirits drifted across the fields like tiny spheres of luminescence, appearing whenever the realm sensed imbalance that needed gentle correction. These beings were not dangerous. They were caretakers, moving with purpose known only to them. Although Alfheim appeared perfect to an outside observer, it was not untouched by challenge. Maintaining harmony required constant awareness. Even subtle shifts in Yggdrasil's energy could disrupt the realm's balance. The Light Elves spent their lives nurturing their world, ensuring that its glow never dimmed. They knew that light was not simply brightness. It required stability, intention, and care. Without vigilance, even the most radiant realms could fade. As ages passed, Alfheim continued to shine with undiminished brilliance. Its forests glowed beneath soft sunlight. Rivers reflected the sky like mirrors of shifting colors. The Light Elves lived with grace, guiding their realm with gentle purpose. In a universe shaped by fire, frost, and conflict, Alfheim remained a sanctuary of clarity. It stood as a reminder that creation was not solely born of force. Sometimes it emerged through calm illumination, patient craftsmanship, and unwavering harmony. Here, within the realm of light, the cosmos found its gentlest voice, whispering through leaves, drifting across rivers, and shimmering through air as soft radiance that touched all who entered with calm truth. High among the branches of Yggdrasil, between the radiant glow of Alfheim and the stirring winds that drifted across the upper worlds, lay Vanaheim, the ancient homeland of the Vanir. Unlike the storms that swept Asgard or the molten rivers that defined Muspelheim, Vanaheim was shaped by rhythm, growth, and the steady pulse of living magic. It was a realm where nature thrived in perfect synchrony, where every creature played a part in the balance of cycles, and where peace was not the absence of conflict, but the result of deep understanding. Vanaheim appeared as an endless tapestry of lush landscapes, each woven with its own distinct pattern of life. Rolling meadows stretched across the horizon, filled with tall grass that swayed in waves as the wind carried scents of blooming flowers. Rivers meandered through the fields, shining with blue clarity, as if reflecting the calm heart of the realm. Towering trees grew in clusters, their bark warm in color, and their leaves shifting through subtle shades that marked the passage of each season. The realm embodied the cycles of nature, honoring growth, decay, renewal, and the quiet wisdom found in every phase. The Vanir themselves were beings deeply connected to these cycles. Their magic was rooted in the rhythms of the world, cultivated through generations of harmony with the land. They carried an air of serene confidence, moving with the grace of those who understood their place within the vast tapestry of the cosmos. Their eyes reflected the soothing colors of their realm, and their gestures held the calm certainty of those who walked in step with ancient forces. Where the Aesir wielded strength and strategy, the Vanir cultivated healing, foresight, and the ability to shape growth through living magic. Vanaheim's architecture blended with its environment, forming structures that appeared grown rather than built. Homes were crafted from living wood that curved naturally into walls and roofs. Their surfaces held patterns shaped by the seasons. Gardens surrounded nearly every dwelling, tended carefully to maintain balance between wildness and cultivation. Pathways of smooth stone connected communities across the realm, lined with small glowing plants that lit the night with warm radiance. Nothing in Vanaheim felt forced. Everything existed in natural harmony. One of the realm's most remarkable features was the flowing expanse, a vast region where waterways stretched in intricate patterns that resembled veins connecting every part of the realm. These rivers nourished forests, meadows, and wetlands, supporting creatures of astonishing variety. Some fish shimmered with bright hues. Others grew long, flowing fins that trailed behind them like strips of silk. Along the banks grew tall reeds that swayed in constant rhythm, as if responding to an unseen song. The Vanir drew power from these rivers, channeling their steady flow into complex rituals that maintained the realm's equilibrium. The Vanir were renowned for their mastery of Seder, a type of magic tied to fate, intuition, and transformation. Unlike the straightforward spells often used by the Aesir, Seder required deep attunement to the patterns of life. Practitioners entered meditative states that allowed them to sense subtle shifts within Yggdrasil. They interpreted dreams, omens, and whispers carried on the wind. Their magic could heal wounds, restore withered lands, or guide spiritual journeys. Such abilities made the Vanir both respected and sought after across the 9 worlds. Although Vanaheim was peaceful, it was not untouched by challenge. Maintaining harmony required continuous effort. Storms sometimes swept through the realm, testing its resilience. Changes within Yggdrasil's deeper energies could disrupt the natural cycles. Predatory creatures roamed certain regions, keeping balance through their presence, but occasionally threatening the safety of travelers. The Vanir faced these issues with calm determination. They believed conflict was not a threat, but a sign that something required attention. Their role was not to avoid imbalance, but to resolve it with understanding. The history of Vanaheim included moments of tension, particularly during its ancient war with Asgard. Despite the realm's tranquil appearance, the Vanir had been formidable opponents. Their magic was unpredictable and difficult to counter. Their understanding of fate and transformation made them adaptable in battle. Yet even during conflict, their goal was restoration rather than domination. When peace was finally achieved between the Aesir and the Vanir, both realms gained from the truce. The marriage between Njord's children and the exchange of hostages created lasting bonds that softened old rivalries. Njord, a prominent figure among the Vanir, was celebrated for his deep connection to seas, winds, and prosperous harvests. His presence reflected the realm's affinity for cycles, especially those tied to water and growth. Freyr, another beloved Vanir, embodied fertility, prosperity, and warmth. His blessing brought life to fields and forests, ensuring abundance. Freya, revered for her mastery of Seder and fierce compassion, held influence across the worlds, guiding wanderers and shaping destinies with insight drawn from the deepest currents of magic. One of Vanaheim's greatest treasures was the Grove of Seasons, a sprawling forest where all 4 seasons coexisted in harmony. One section of the grove shimmered with the colors of spring, filled with blooming flowers and bright green leaves. Another mirrored summer, with tall grasses and warm sunlight bathing the trees. A third reflected autumn, its ground covered with golden leaves that rustled softly underfoot. The final section embodied winter, peaceful and serene, with delicate snow covering the branches. The grove served as a living representation of the realm's philosophy. Every phase of life was necessary. Every shift held meaning. The Vanir conducted many of their rituals within the Grove of Seasons, drawing upon its unique energies to align themselves with the cyclical forces of the cosmos. During these ceremonies, participants moved in coordinated patterns that mimicked the transitions between seasons. Their chants resonated across the grove, blending with the sounds of nature until it was impossible to tell where voices ended and the realm's heartbeat began. The ceremonies strengthened the bond between the Vanir and Yggdrasil, ensuring that the realm's cycles remained steady. Creatures that inhabited Vanaheim possessed characteristics shaped by the realm's rich harmony. Deer with branching antlers wandered through meadows, their movements calm and rhythmic. Birds with soft, iridescent feathers sang in melodic tones that varied with the time of day. Insects with glowing bodies drifted across fields at night, creating shifting patterns of light. Some creatures could sense changes in magic, gathering at specific locations before storms or ritual events. Their behavior offered the Vanir insight into the subtle flows that maintained cosmic balance. Despite its calm nature, Vanaheim held mysteries as deep as its rivers. Certain regions pulsed with energies that scholars studied for generations without fully understanding. One such place was the Veiled Crossing, a meadow where the boundary between dreams and waking life became thin. Here, travelers sometimes saw visions reflecting possibilities, memories, or potential futures. The Vanir believed the crossing was a natural manifestation of Seder, a place where fate allowed glimpses into paths not yet taken. Another enigmatic location was the Hollow of Voices, a cavern surrounded by cascading waterfalls. Inside the cavern, echoes formed patterns that resembled speech. Some claimed they heard answers to unasked questions. Others felt guided toward difficult decisions. Although the Vanir did not claim mastery over these phenomena, they respected the cavern's significance and protected it from disturbance. Vanaheim's influence spread across the 9 worlds through quiet means. Its magic supported the fertility of Midgard's lands. Its rituals stabilized shifts in cosmic energy. Its wisdom shaped decisions made by leaders both mortal and divine. While Asgard symbolized defense and order, Vanaheim represented growth and renewal. The 2 realms, once divided by conflict, now stood in complementary balance, each offering strengths the other lacked. As the ages unfolded, Vanaheim remained unchanged in its devotion to harmony. Its fields thrived with endless life. Its rivers carried the pulse of its tranquil heart. The Vanir continued to guide the realm with steady hands, their connection to nature unbroken. Even as other worlds faced turmoil or dramatic change, Vanaheim stayed rooted in timeless cycles. It persisted as one of the most balanced realms among the 9 worlds, a place where energy flowed with purpose, clarity, and gentle strength. By existing in harmony with all living things, Vanaheim offered a reminder cherished by travelers who walked its fields. Power could roar like fire or strike like lightning, but it could also grow quietly, heal wounds, mend divisions, and guide the cosmos with calm resilience. Within the gentle folds of this realm, the universe found a sanctuary, a resting place, shaped by cycles of renewal that never faltered throughout the ages. Far beneath the bustling worlds of Midgard and the radiant heights of Alfheim lay a realm shrouded in deep silence, a land where the footsteps of the living seldom echoed, and the breath of the past lingered like a quiet wind. This was Helheim, the domain of Hel, daughter of Loki, and the final resting place for those who met neither glorious triumph nor violent end. It was not a realm of torment. It was not a place of fire or eternal punishment. Instead, Helheim embodied stillness, memory, and the solemn truth that all paths, whether grand or humble, eventually returned to silence. Helheim stretched across a vast landscape, cloaked in muted colors. Gray plains rolled toward distant horizons. Mountains formed jagged silhouettes against a sky that glowed with pale twilight. The light that illuminated this realm never brightened nor dimmed. It remained steady, casting soft shadows that extended across quiet fields. Rivers flowed slowly through the land, their waters dark and reflective, carrying whispers of forgotten stories. Trees with ash-colored bark grew along the riverbanks, their branches twisted toward the sky as if reaching for something beyond the realm's touch. The air in Helheim was cool and still. It carried faint echoes, as if the realm remembered every voice that had ever passed into its depths. Paths wound across the plains in long, meandering lines. Some faded into the landscape. Others remained clear, as if many feet had walked them in recent memory. Each path led toward the heart of the realm, where Hel's Hall stood in quiet prominence. Despite the realm's somber tone, Helheim was not devoid of beauty. Its stillness held a kind of grace, a gentle reminder that even endings carried dignity. Hel, ruler of the realm, embodied the same duality that shaped her land. One side of her form appeared fair, calm, and serene. The other bore the color of the grave, reflecting the quiet truth of mortality. She spoke with a steady voice that neither threatened nor comforted. She governed not through fear, but through unwavering fairness. All who entered Helheim received the same treatment. Their deeds, whether great or small, were acknowledged. Their burdens were eased. Their spirits were guided to their proper place within the quiet fabric of the realm. Hel's Hall, known as Eljudnir, stood upon a rise of dark stone. Its walls were smooth, carved from material that reflected faint glimmers of light like distant stars. The hall extended deep into the ground, containing chambers where memories settled like dust upon ancient shelves. Here the departed found rest. There were no chains, no torment, and no endless suffering. Instead, the realm offered reflection, a place where souls confronted the truth of their lives without distraction or illusion. Despite its solemn nature, Helheim was not a realm of despair. It served a necessary purpose within the nine worlds. Without a place for quiet endings, the cycle of life would break. The living required closure. The dead required rest. Helheim provided both. Its rivers carried the weight of forgotten deeds. Its winds whispered the stories that time had allowed to fade. Its still landscapes held the memories of countless ages, preserved in silence. Creatures that inhabited Helheim mirrored the realm's tranquility. Wolves with pale fur roamed the plains in silent packs. Their eyes glowed faintly beneath the twilight sky. Large birds with dark feathers perched in the twisted trees, their wings spreading like shadows across the ground. Spirits moved through the realm with slow, drifting motion, appearing as faint silhouettes that glided over the fields. These inhabitants did not harm travelers. They simply existed, shaped by the stillness that defined their world. One of Helheim's most notable features was the Bridge of Gjoll, which spanned a deep canyon filled with swirling mist. The bridge glowed faintly underfoot, illuminated by muted light. It was guarded by Midgard, a figure known for her unwavering vigilance. She greeted those who crossed into the realm, asking their names and origins with calm formality. She did not bar entry. She simply ensured that all who passed were recognized, for Helheim valued acknowledgement more than judgment. Beyond the bridge lay the Valley of Echoes, a wide expanse where the wind carried faint whispers. These murmurs were not voices of torment. They were fragments of memories drifting across the land. Travelers who ventured through the valley sometimes heard familiar tones from their past, reminding them of moments they had forgotten. The Vanir believed the valley served as a place of reflection, allowing souls to face the echo of their lives before settling deeper into the realm. Although Helheim was predominantly peaceful, its borders brushed against darker regions tied to ancient forces. One such area was the Frozen Descent, a series of cliffs coated in layers of ice that never melted. Here the cold of Niflheim seeped into Helheim, creating a stark boundary. The cliffs glistened like crystal, their edges sharp and gleaming. Beneath the icy surface, shadows moved slowly, shaped by remnants of ancient spirits who had not yet found rest. The Vanir and Asir rarely ventured into this boundary region, for it held energies older than memory. Another mysterious location within Helheim was the Field of Still Waters, a broad lake with a surface so smooth that it reflected the sky with perfect clarity. Those who gazed into the water sometimes saw moments from their past unfold in silent motion. Some saw future possibilities. Others saw nothing at all, as if the water waited for them to understand something deeper before revealing its images. This lake served as a quiet intersection between memory and truth, providing insight to those who approached it with intention. In contrast to realms that relied on movement or constant energy, Helheim remained grounded in stillness. This stillness did not weaken the realm. Instead, it strengthened it. In a universe filled with storms, fire, and shifting magic, Helheim offered something no other realm provided. It offered rest. It provided a space where the past could settle without being erased. Its purpose was preservation, not punishment. Even Odin, who often walked with fierce determination, understood the necessity of Helheim's existence. Without it, the 9 worlds would lose the balance between beginning and end. Despite being the daughter of Loki, Hel did not follow her father's unpredictable path. She remained consistent, steady, and dedicated to her realm. Her presence kept Helheim in equilibrium. She guided the quiet flow of spirits. She maintained the boundaries between her realm and others. Her calm demeanor reflected the somber but dignified nature of the world she ruled. While other figures in the 9 worlds gained attention through might or magic, Hel's influence manifested through silent constancy. Helheim also played a role in certain prophecies connected to the end of the cosmos. It was said that during the final age, the dead from Helheim would march forth, guided not by fear, but by the inevitability of fate. This movement would mark one of the many signs that the cycle of the worlds had reached its final turning. Yet even these prophecies portrayed the realm not as a force of chaos, but as one bound to the natural progression of ages. For all its somber atmosphere, Helheim held a quiet beauty that resonated with those who recognized its purpose. The gentle glow of its sky, the soft murmur of its rivers, and the silent dignity of its plains formed a unique harmony. This harmony reminded all who ventured there that endings were not meant to erase life, but to shape it. The living drew meaning from their knowledge of mortality. The dead found peace in the understanding that their journey had reached its rightful close. In the grand tapestry of the 9 worlds, Helheim stood as the realm of final truths, a place where shadows settled gently and memories found rest. It embodied the calm after life's storms, the still breath that followed a long journey, and the understanding that even silence could hold profound significance. Through its enduring quiet, Helheim anchored the cycles of existence, ensuring that every beginning, no matter how bright, would one day find its proper end. Long before the first tree grew from the void, and long before the earliest gods shaped their halls within the upper worlds, there existed a realm carved by the cold breath of creation itself. This was Niflheim, the oldest and most unchanging of all worlds, a place where frost gathered into towering formations and mist drifted in constant waves across endless plains of ice. It was said that Niflheim lay at the very root of existence, born from the earliest stirrings of the cosmos, a realm untouched by warmth and unaltered by the passing of ages. Niflheim stretched outward in every direction with a stark and quiet majesty. Great glaciers rose like crystal mountains. Their sharp edges reflected pale light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The ground beneath them was solid and ancient, packed with layers of frozen history. Caverns lay buried beneath the ice, their walls lined with frost that glittered like a field of stars. The air within these depths carried a chill so profound it almost hummed, as if the realm itself sang in low frequencies that only the oldest spirits could hear. The sky hanging above Niflheim swirled with cold mist. It drifted in long ribbons, twisting through the air like ethereal serpents. Sometimes the mist settled close to the ground, forming a thick shroud that concealed the landscape. Other times it rose high, revealing distant horizons where icy ridges cut across the world with sharp precision. The light that shone through this mist was faint and blue, casting long shadows across the frozen terrain. At the heart of Niflheim lay a deep well known as Hvergelmir, the bubbling source of countless rivers that flowed into many realms. Steam and frost rose from its depths in a swirling dance. Though the water within the well appeared turbulent, it carried a quiet steadiness, as if it had been flowing since the dawn of time and would continue until the end of all things. Greetings, known as frost serpents, coiled around the edges of the well. Their scales glistened with icy brilliance. They fed on the cold currents that surged upward from the world's core. Among these serpents dwelled the great dragon Nidhogg. It lay coiled in immense loops around the base of Yggdrasil's lowest root. Its wings folded tightly against its body. Its eyes gleamed with a deep and ancient hunger. Nidhogg was a creature shaped by the primal cold. Its scales were hardened like glacial stone. Its breath carried the chill of the deepest void. Although tales often portrayed Nidhogg as a destructive force, its existence served a purpose within the cosmic balance. It gnawed at the roots of the world tree not out of hatred, but as part of a cycle designed to maintain the harmony between growth and decay. Without Nidhogg's relentless presence, the tree would become stagnant. In this way, Niflheim contributed to the vitality of creation. Beyond Hvergelmir stretched the plains of endless frost, an expanse so wide that even the gods were said to lose their sense of direction upon it. The plains appeared uniform at first glance. However, those who walked upon them learned that the ice beneath shifted over centuries, carving new ridges and altering familiar paths. The wind that traveled across these plains whistled with a sharp edge, creating a sound like distant voices calling across a frozen horizon. Travelers described this wind as haunting, yet strangely beautiful. Niflheim's atmosphere shaped its inhabitants. Frost spirits drifted across the plains like drifting streaks of pale blue light. They moved with slow, sweeping motions, leaving faint trails that shimmered before fading into the cold air. These spirits did not speak or take solid form. Instead, they existed as pure reflections of the realm's stillness. They guided lost travelers toward safer paths or away from unstable regions where the ice might crack or shift unexpectedly. Though silent and enigmatic, they played a crucial role in maintaining the delicate balance within the realm. Deep within the glaciers lay structures formed not by hands, but by nature's ancient processes. These ice halls shone with crystalline brilliance. Their pillars reached toward ceilings lined with frozen stalactites. Some chambers were vast enough to echo faintly when even the softest sound broke the stillness. Others formed narrow passages that felt as if they had been carved by the slow movement of the world itself. Explorers who ventured into these halls often described an overwhelming sense of humility. The frozen architecture reflected the realm's ageless patience, a reminder that time moved differently within Niflheim. Although Niflheim was defined by cold, it was not devoid of movement. Beneath the surface, rivers of slush flowed slowly, carrying mineral ice that glittered with muted light. These rivers fed into Hvergelmir, reinforcing the well's powerful currents. Steam billowed from cracks in the ice, rising into the air and blending with the mist. In certain areas, geysers erupted in slow, steady intervals, sending bursts of icy vapor into the sky. These natural phenomena created rhythmic patterns that gave Niflheim a sense of subtle motion beneath its apparent stillness. The realm's connection to the creation of the cosmos was deeply rooted in ancient lore. Many stories spoke of the time when Niflheim and Muspelheim stood alone in the void, embodying the fundamental forces of cold and heat. As these opposites approached each other, their energies collided, forming the great storm of life from which the first giant, Ymir, emerged. Niflheim contributed the frost that shaped Ymir's form. Its fundamental stillness provided the foundation upon which future worlds were built. Though the creation myth varied across different traditions, the core belief remained that the fusion of ice and fire sparked the beginning of existence. Despite its primordial role, Niflheim remained largely isolated from the affairs of other realms. Few gods journeyed there willingly. Odin descended into its depths only when necessary, seeking knowledge from the ancient forces that resided there. Other deities viewed the realm with a mixture of respect and caution, understanding that Niflheim embodied forces older than their own existence. Even the giants of Jotunheim regarded the realm with reverence, recognizing it as the birthplace of their earliest ancestors. Yet Niflheim was not entirely devoid of life. Strange creatures adapted to its harsh environment. Large frost wolves roamed across the plains, their fur white as snow, and their bodies strong enough to endure the realm's intense cold. They moved in silent packs, leaving deep tracks in the ice that filled slowly with frost. These wolves were cautious, intelligent, and capable of traveling great distances without rest. To see one was considered a sign of significance, as they often appeared during moments of transition or change. In certain regions, large crystalline formations rose from the ground like shimmering towers. These natural structures emitted faint tones when struck by the wind, creating a gentle harmony that drifted across the frozen landscape. Listeners described the sound as haunting yet calming, a melody shaped by the rhythm of the world itself. These formations were known as the Singing Spires. They stood as ancient monuments to the realm's quiet beauty. While Niflheim thrived in its stillness, it also played a significant role in the future of the Nine Worlds. Prophecies foretold that during the Final Age, the forces of cold would surge once more, traveling upward through Yggdrasil's roots and spreading across the realms. This would mark one of the many signs that the cosmic cycle approached its final turning. Yet these prophecies also acknowledged that such an event would not stem from malice. Instead, it would reflect the natural progression of creation and destruction. Niflheim's power existed not to harm, but to maintain balance, ensuring that the old made way for the new. In the grand weave of existence, Niflheim stood as a realm of origin and inevitability. Its frozen fields preserved the echoes of the earliest ages. Its mist carried the weight of ancient memory. Its glaciers held stories older than time. Through its enduring presence, Niflheim reminded all who contemplated its vastness that stillness was not the absence of life, but a fundamental component of creation. The world required both movement and rest, warmth and cold, life and quiet. In the heart of this balance, Niflheim held its eternal vigil, a realm of mist and frost that watched over the origins of all things. Far across the cosmic span, where the branches of Yggdrasil thinned into blazing horizons, lay the realm of Muspelheim, a world shaped entirely by roaring flames, molten rivers, and the relentless surge of heat that pulsed like a heartbeat through the foundations of existence. Muspelheim stood in stark contrast to Niflheim's cold stillness. If Niflheim embodied the quiet breath of the void, Muspelheim represented its fiery exhale, a force shaped not by destruction alone, but by unrestrained creation. Its flames danced with fierce vitality, Its rivers of fire moved with the power of a world forever in motion. Those who traveled to this realm soon learned that fire held more than the power to consume. It held the power to shape. Muspelheim's landscape stretched across vast oceans of molten rock that surged and folded beneath an ever-burning sky. Towering volcanic spires rose in jagged formations. Their peaks glowed with bright orange light. Streams of fire erupted from fissures in the ground, arching upward before falling back in showers of sparks. The air shimmered with heat that distorted distant shapes, creating shifting mirages across the fiery terrain. The realm existed in constant transformation. New structures formed while old ones melted back into the molten ocean. Nothing remained unchanged for long. At the center of Muspelheim lay a great chasm known as the Flame Heart. It pulsed with deep red light that illuminated the realm in rhythmic waves. Each pulse sent tremors through the fiery ground, making the molten rivers surge with renewed force. This chasm was believed to be the source of Muspelheim's endless fire, a primordial furnace that had burned since the universe began. Ancient lore claimed that the energies rising from the Flame Heart were the first sparks that collided with Niflheim's frost to create life. Thus, Muspelheim's fires were not only destructive, but deeply tied to the origin of the cosmos. The ruler of Muspelheim was Surtur, a being forged from pure flame. His presence towered above the molten plains. His armor glowed with the heat of 1,000 furnaces. His sword burned with such intensity that even gods hesitated to face its brilliance. Surtur was not a figure of chaos. He held absolute command over the realm's fire. His movements were deliberate, shaped by ancient purpose. While many tales emphasized his role during the Final Age, Surtur remained a guardian of cosmic order. His power preserved the realm's fiery cycle. Fire giants populated Muspelheim alongside Surtur. These beings possessed immense strength and bodies infused with molten core. Their movements sent ripples of heat across the land. Their forges produced weapons of extraordinary craftsmanship, forged in temperatures no other realm could endure. Yet the giants did not wage constant war. They spent much of their time shaping metal, studying the behavior of flame, and walking the vast fields of fire that defined their home. Their reverence for flame was evident in every action. They treated fire as a living force rather than a tool. Though Muspelheim appeared hostile to outsiders, it also possessed intense beauty. Rivers of flowing magma created glowing patterns that traced the landscape like fiery veins. Volcanoes erupted with towering fountains of molten light that illuminated the sky in vivid color. Firestorms rolled across the horizon in waves, their swirling patterns forming shapes that seemed almost alive. The realm's illumination was constant, casting long shadows that danced and shifted as the flames rose and fell. Heat shaped everything that lived within Muspelheim. Creatures such as magma serpents slithered through rivers of molten rock, their scales glowing with inner fire. Lava drakes soared across the sky on wings of ember, leaving trails of sparks that glittered against the fiery backdrop. At night, the sky darkened slightly, revealing swirling clouds of ember dust that glowed with faint golden hues. This subtle illumination created a sense of calm that contrasted with the realm's explosive energy. Muspelheim carried deep significance within the mythology of the Nine Worlds. It represented more than raw power. It symbolized the unending cycle of creation and renewal. Its flames burned away stagnation and made way for new beginnings. While the realm's fire could destroy, it also gave life to the earliest forms of existence. Without Muspelheim's energy, the universe would lack the spark needed to ignite transformation. The realm's presence ensured that the cosmic cycle remained vibrant. Throughout the ages, Odin studied Muspelheim from afar. He recognized the realm's potential and its danger. He respected Surtur, understanding that the fire giant's power was tied directly to the fate of all the worlds. Though Odin's journeys brought him to the edges of Muspelheim, he rarely ventured deeper, knowing that the realm's heat could overwhelm even the strongest gods. However, his observations confirmed that Muspelheim was not driven by malice. It burned because that was its nature. Tales of the final age spoke of Surtur raising his sword in a blaze that would stretch across the sky. This event was said to signal a transformation so great that it would reshape every realm. Yet these prophecies described renewal rather than permanent destruction. Fire would sweep across the worlds, consuming the old, clearing paths for what would rise afterward. In this way, Muspelheim contributed to the inevitable cycle that governed all of existence. The connection between Muspelheim and Yggdrasil remained powerful. The heat from the realm's core traveled upward through the roots of the world tree in subtle waves. These waves warmed the depths of creation and helped maintain the balance between cold and heat. Without this warmth, the tree's lowest roots would freeze. Without Niflheim's cold, the tree's structure would weaken under excessive heat. The two primordial realms maintained an intricate equilibrium, ensuring that Yggdrasil continued to support the Nine Worlds. As the final realm in the grand journey across Yggdrasil's branches, Muspelheim represented a necessary conclusion to the cosmic cycle. While other worlds embodied growth, balance, wisdom, and transformation, Muspelheim embodied the raw power that drove existence forward. It provided the spark that shaped creation and would one day ignite the renewal of the universe. In the vast tapestry of the Nine Worlds, each realm played its part. Asgard stood for order and divine purpose. Midgard represented resilience and human determination. Jotunheim embodied primal force and untamed nature. Vanaheim symbolized harmony and prosperity. Alfheim shone with radiant beauty and creativity. Svartalfheim thrived in shadowed skill and intricate craftsmanship. Nidavellir held the brilliance of metal and the strength of stone. Helheim preserved memory and offered quiet rest. Niflheim anchored the cosmos with ancient ice. Muspelheim fueled it with fire that burned without end. At the center of this intricate web stood Yggdrasil, the world tree, its roots reaching into the depths of Niflheim and its branches touching the blazing skies of Muspelheim. It connected the realms not as a boundary, but as a bridge, allowing the forces of existence to flow across its vast structure. Through storms, wars, alliances, and cosmic cycles, Yggdrasil endured. It served as a reminder that the Nine Worlds were not separate, but woven into a single story. The journey through the realms revealed a universe built on contrasts: light and shadow, life and death, order and chaos, fire and frost. These forces clashed, balanced, and intertwined in ways that sustained creation. Every realm contributed to the cosmic cycle. Every force, whether gentle or fierce, held meaning within the larger design. As the story of Yggdrasil and the Nine Worlds drew to a close, one truth remained clear: the cosmos thrived because of its diversity. Each realm held its own identity and purpose. Their interactions shaped the eternal rhythm of existence. From the radiant glow of Alfheim to the solemn quiet of Helheim, From the icy depths of Niflheim to the blazing expanse of Muspelheim, the worlds formed a grand symphony that echoed through the branches of the world tree. Though ages passed and legends changed, the essence of the nine worlds endured. Their stories spread across countless generations. Their lessons guided both gods and mortals. Yggdrasil continued to stand tall, watching over the realms as they evolved and transformed. It held the weight of history within its bark, and the promise of the future within its leaves. In the end, the nine worlds remained united, not by borders or battles, but by the shared cycle that connected them. Creation, growth, decline, renewal. This cycle turned endlessly, shaping the past, present, and future. Through all of it, Yggdrasil stood as both guardian and witness, its branches stretching across existence like the arms of time itself. And thus, the tale of Yggdrasil and the nine worlds reached its final chapter. Not with an end, but with the understanding that every ending gave rise to new beginnings. The flames of Muspelheim, the frost of Niflheim, the breath of every realm, and the roots of the world tree joined together in a story as eternal as the cosmos itself. As our journey across Yggdrasil comes to a close, the echoes of ancient worlds still linger. The light of Alfheim, the shadows of Svartalfheim, the frost of Niflheim, and the fire of Muspelheim remain alive in the stories we carry forward. These realms will continue to shape the forgotten truths and hidden histories that define the universe. Their voices whisper through time and wait for those willing to listen. If you have walked with me through every realm, if you have followed the branches of the world tree and felt the weight of its ancient roots, then you are already part of something greater. You are a seeker of forbidden lore, a traveler who chooses knowledge over certainty and curiosity over silence. If this story has sparked your imagination or opened a new path of wonder, I invite you to stay with this journey. Join the community of those who explore the unseen corners of myth and legend. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next chapter waiting beyond the horizon. Leave a like to help these stories reach more travelers. Share your thoughts in the comments so our path grows richer with every voice that joins us. Thank you for venturing into the heart of Yggdrasil. Until our next exploration of the unknown, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep walking deeper into the forbidden lore.